we go. So, Pot by Shamshad Khan. I'm going to repeat a few points I made earlier on just for the benefit of this recording. So first of all, a pot is something that we use. So a pot is I'm going to use the word functional. It's a functional item. Okay, it's used to carry water. It's used to carry grain. It's used to store things on. But they often represent the culture that it's from. Okay. Now, also notice here, both her name, well done, and the title. These are uncapitalized. Okay. Now, again, I think there's two things here. So uncapitalized. Yeah. There's two things here that I think are important. The first one is that it means that they are unimportant, so they're not treated with respect, they're not treated as individual things, but also that there are many. Okay, so there are many pots, so there are many people like Shamshad Khan, both victims of colonialization. The pot is from Nigeria, and she is from Pakistan. These are both countries that at one point were part of the British Empire. So there is a unity between the pot and the poet that she wants to explore. So big, they said you shouldn't really be moved. Okay, let's start with that. It's a big pot, right? You shouldn't really be moved. So fragile, you might break. You could come from anywhere, pot. So first of all, big and fragile. Okay, so these are words to describe the pot. But please remember, the pot is a symbol of the people. There's also people, right? That you can't move a person. That a person is fragile. There's a sense that there's a vulnerability here, right? You shouldn't be moved, that you might break. Styles have travelled just like terracotta. Terracotta is a material that's used to make pots. You could almost be an English pot. So the idea is that the style of the pot has moved around. So this pot is not unlike English pots. So there's an idea here that we're going to say that cultures travel and spread. So ideas can move around freely, but things and people probably shouldn't. Right? You could be from anywhere, pot. So this is not just one situation. This is happening all over the world. But I know you're not. So I know you're not an English pot. So there's a sense here of being a victim, potentially kind of out of place. Now, of course, in the museum, it would say this pot is from Nigeria. So she knows the pot is not an English pot, so the pot must have come from somewhere. I know half the story, pot. So the half the story that she knows is that it came to England. So I know that you came to England, but the half that I don't know is how. Right? I don't know how you got here. Of where you come from. Of how you got here. Okay, so these are the things that she doesn't know, right? Now, she knows the pot's from Nigeria, but where in Nigeria? What town, what village? Who owned the pot? Who made the pot? So there's an idea that it lacks history. So I don't know the history of this pot. Now again, don't get confused. The pot is also people. So the people who have been taken and moved around the world, what's their history? How did they get here? Who are they? I need you to tell me the rest, pot. But one chance. Don't be foolish. I need you to tell me the rest, pot. So there's an idea here of wanting the pot to speak. Now, of course, the problem here is that the pot cannot speak. So there's an idea that this history is lost. In the same way that under colonial countries, the real history of these countries was lost due to the power put upon them by other people. Tell me, Notice here, this is an imperative. So there's kind of almost a command or a desperation to know. Tell me, did they say you were bought pot? A looter's deal done. The whole lot. Sold to the gentleman in the grey hat. Now this one here, the gentleman in the grey hat, gives us an idea of the colonizer, right? The man in the suit, the man who is rich, the man who is well dressed. Were you bought? So there's an idea of was this legal? But notice they also use the word looter's deal. Now a looter is a person who steals from one person and sells to another person. So tell me, was this an economic transaction? Were you bought, were you stolen and sold? Now this might also be the museum. Okay, this might also be the museum as well. But was this an economic trade or transaction? Or did they say you were lost pot? So lost means that you had no owner. Finders are keepers, you know pot. So were you stolen? So I put number one is were you bought and sold. Number two is were you found. Okay, how did you get here? Notice they keep using this word here, they. So they always has quite negative connotations. They do this sort of like kind of shady people, like the plurality. Who are all these people? Who's chatting about this stuff? Okay. Or did they say they didn't notice you, pot? They didn't notice you. Must have slipped onto the white sailing yacht bound for England. Right, so circle yacht please. So a yacht again is an expensive boat. Okay, it's quite a sense of luxury with a yacht. So was it all an accident? Whoops, we accidentally took the pot on our expensive boat bound for England. Notice again, England is uncapitalised. So the sense here of almost kind of mocking England, that it's not as good as it thinks it is, right? So three things. One, was it bought and sold? Two, was it found and taken? Or three, was it an accident? Did it just turn up by accident? Someone, somewhere, will have missed you, pot. Okay, so now we're talking a little bit here about the original life of the pot. Now, yes, if you had a pot to carry water and it went missing and you couldn't carry water, you would miss the pot. But also remember, the pot is also people. Okay, someone, somewhere. These are about identity. So where are we? Who are we? Where am I from? Who is my family? Someone somewhere will have missed you, pot. Gone out looking for you, pot. Because someone somewhere, again repeated from here, repeated, made you. Now this, of course, is true, right? The pot was made by a person. So the pot which is in the museum, that's like a piece of artwork or something to be looked at, was important. It was important to someone, right? When it was originally made, it was made for a reason. Okay, fingernails. And now fingernails is something very human. Pressed. Snake patterned you, pot. So somebody has deliberately put care and love into the design of the pot. Okay. Now again, they could have just made the pot, but they didn't just make the pot. They put design into it. It was important to them. It's their creativity. It's something that was mattered. Washed you, pot. Used you, pot. Loved you, pot. Okay. Now notice the repetition of pot. If you keep saying something, okay, to repeat is to give importance. So if you keep saying the name of pot all the time, you make it more important. right? Used you, loved you, washed you, pressed you. These are also words you could use potentially for people as well, right? To love something, to wash it, to use it. There's an idea here of sort of human connection with the pot. That for somebody you mattered. For these colonialists, all that mattered was taking you away, but for somebody you're important. If I could shatter this glass, remember glass is an invisible barrier, right? So it does mean the museum glass, but it could also mean some of the barriers that exist in life as well. If I can shatter this glass, I would take you back myself, pot. So there is a desire, I'm going to put desire to reverse colonialism, right? I want to take the pot back to where it was from. I want to fix history. I want to restore history. You think they wouldn't recognise you, pot. So this points towards a bit of anxiety, maybe. So if I took you back, you think that they would have forgotten who you were. They wouldn't remember you. So if you're a person that's left your original culture, how do you go back? Okay? So there's a sense here of, can someone go back? And again, the poet tries to reassure. Okay, turn the page. Say diaspora. We'll underline that, we'll come back to that. Diaspora, you left. You're not really one of us. So this is the worry, right? The worry of being disconnected from your heritage. Now the word diaspora, circle that please. Another minute. The word diaspora means a people who are spread across the world. Okay. In other words, they have left. They have left original place. So there's lots of people like this. So you talk about like the Jewish diaspora. So the Jews originally all come from the Middle East, from the area that is now Israel. They were spread around the world over thousands of years. They're known as the diaspora. So in this, it's kind of like an insult. It's not really an insult in life, but here's a bit of an insult, right? The idea of, you're not really part of us anymore. You've left, right? You've spread yourself away from us. So this is what the pot is worried about. So this is the pot's worry, right? I will be rejected. I will be rejected by the people where I'm from. Pot. I've been back to where my family's from. I've been back to where my family's from. Now, of course, she's talking maybe about Pakistan here. That's the poet. So I've been back where my family is from. They were happy to see me. Laughed a lot. So we've got happy, we've got laughed. Said I was more Asian than the Asians, pot. I was more Asian than the Asians. So that she is almost better or purer. Now that seems weird, right? But maybe the idea is that she's had to think more about who she is. So she maybe has a stronger identity because she's someone who's had to really deal with this situation. I was more Asian than the Asians, pot. I was pot. I was pot. Now again, there's two ways you can read this, right? The first one is that it's I was, pause, pot. So the first one is it's like assurance. So they said this and it was true, right? That it's true. The second way you could read it is I was pot. Like I am the same as you. So that the idea that we are the same. So she looks at this pot in the museum and she thinks, this is me. This is literally what happened to me. I was taken from my country and put in this sort of glass cage of England, and I want to go back. Wait. I was pot. Imagine. Okay, full stop. It's quite unusual. Okay, so he wants you to really pause here, right, and think. Imagine the hot sun on your back. Okay, hot sun. Feel flies settle on your skin. Warm grain poured inside. Now, again, all of these here are both literal about the pot, but they're also metaphors. So the warm grain poured inside is both grain put in the pot, but it could also be something fulfilling or enriching, right? So grain is something which feeds you. Empty pot. So this is in the museum. So the pot is not being used. It's an empty pot. Sorry. The pot is not being used. It's an empty pot, which seems kind of sad. So this is all here is about living truthful life. Living a truthful life, right? Go and be a pot. Right, be in the sun, get hot. Like have a fly land on you. Be filled with grain. Right, go and be a pot. Don't live this fake life. I'm going to put here, fake life versus truthful life. Right, don't live this fake life in England where you're just a shell of something to be seen. Go back and live a real life where you're from. Growl if you hear me. Okay, growl being a sort of aggressive, almost like an animalistic, an animal sound. Pot. 2 spaces. Pot. So again, the idea is there is no response from the pot, because the pot is not a person, right? A pot can't talk to you, right? Dedicated to a Nigerian pot currently incarcerated. This is part of the poem, so we can analyse this. Incarcerated in the Manchester Museum without charge or access to the representation. Now this is very much human language. To be incarcerated means to be imprisoned. So this is pretty clear here that the pot is a victim. The pot has been taken, imprisoned. There's no charge. There's no lawyer. Legal representation is a lawyer. There's no charge. There's no lawyer. There has been a terrible, ready, last word, terrible injustice. Now again, the idea of the poem is, yes, it is about a pot, but it's also really about her. That when she looks at the pot, I'll add this here, sorry, one more thing. Okay, she sees herself in the pot. Okay? She sees herself in the pot.